And here's a scene where Luke, who's played by Tarantino, of course talks to his son here. Now, this is actually the earliest. Now this movie, of course, like I said, when Gore Verbinski signed on to direct this movie, apparently Gary Sinise and Tim Roberts were actually already cast. Most of the cast was only cast before Brian De Palma signed on. Basically, what Brian De Palma did was basically fix up the movie. De Palma at this point was coming after the success of Mission Impossible, but his follow-up film to Mission Impossible, Snake Eyes. That big fears of the movie about the G.I. Joe character Snake Eyes. Funny enough, both the Nicolas Cage Snake Eyes and the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes are owned by films made by Paramount. Now there's a Suzu, which I believe that's actually a concept car that was designed, but I believe in the year 2000. This movie takes place in 2020. Now, this movie came out in 2000, so 2020 seems to have a futuristic to them, which is what the explains the Chrissy futuristic. The concept cars were now on Earth. There's no mention of but to be honest, this movie takes place in space, so you wouldn't really. Anyway, I think here's where now now when Brian De Palma signed on to direct this film, his basically he was hired to be the fix up man. In fact, what Brian De Palma was actually brought in to mostly just fix up the movie. De Palma basically did a lot of re-edits and extensive reshoots. He did a lot of reshoots. He also reshot. He reshot. In fact, all the scenes that Gore Verbinski shot, De Palma himself shot. De Palma would literally do reshoots of using his own takes. Yeah, this movie had a pretty troubled production history. It actually went massively over budget. It was originally envisioned as having a $75 million budget, but its budget actually blew to $120 million. Due to the fact that now Gore Verbinski originally wanted a $105 million budget, so $30 million more than what Touchstone was willing to offer. Now, Touchstone Pictures, funnily enough, ended up having to pay way more than what they were willing to pay Gore Verbinski. They had to pay double to accommodate for Brian De Palma taking over. Now, the budget wasn't the only thing that Gore Verbinski apparently in Disney Touchstone executives butted heads over. Apparently, Verbinski's cut of the film was apparently a much slower paced movie.
You read every damn science fiction book I did, and you're just not man enough to words.
And apparently, another point of contention was that apparently Verbinski's first cut was seen as having being shot in a very unusual way. It was being shot in a rather more kind of experimental kind of photography filming style. Allegedly, however, Touchstone executives didn't like Verbinski's his kind of approach with apparently it took allegedly Verbinski's directorial approach took some approach to what he had done with. And apparently now Ennio Morricone, he I believe was actually brought in to do the score kind of late. Originally, another composer was actually offered a job, I believe. However, that other composer ended up bowing out due to scheduling conflicts caused by production delays. So Ennio Morricone took over.